News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Well, did you see what happened in Korea today, South Korea? With the president of South Korea declaring a martial law, and then literally you had people storming Parliament. You had commandos from the police force storming in, breaking windows, getting into the Parliament to protect the lawmakers. You had the lawmakers getting into session. The military was there trying to stop the Parliament from getting in there, and Parliament got in. It's a crazy and scary and wild scene, because you would think a country, a close ally like South Korea, where many of us have friends. I have a dear friend who I'll see again in a couple of weeks in Chicago, who was born raised in South Korea up till moving here in high school. And, his wife is from Korea. I have in-laws, soon-to-be in-laws that are American Korean folk. But we just don't think of this kind of thing happening. And it was wild and it was scary. It makes you think about our country, doesn't it? It's like, how quickly could something like this happen here? Martial law had not been declared in South Korea since 79. So you're looking at 45 years, roughly. And the country was so up in our parliament, in fact, including a leading member of the South Korean president, Yoon Suk Yeol, his highest member of his party in parliament denounced this. They showed up and they voted 190-0 to override his martial law and to shut it down. He claimed he had to do martial law to rebuild and protect the country from falling into the depths of national ruin. Now, the president of South Korea has horribly low ratings. And so nobody wants him, nobody likes him. His wife and he are embroiled in a big, massive corruption scandal right now. Influence peddling. Does that sound familiar? And so this apparently was his attempt to try to shut things down and take things over. Shortly after the president of South Korea made his announcement, people began gathering outside the parliament, Fox News reports, some of them shouting, "Withdraw emergency martial law," while scuffling with troops under South Korean law. The president himself must lift it if the parliament demands it with a majority vote. And so that's amazing. 190-0. Stop this, end it. And it's probably the shortest declaration of martial law in the world history, because it was 3 hours and he lifted it. But it's scary to see that. It makes you think about apocalyptic movies we've seen, apocalyptic scenarios, and makes you think about us, because you go, that if they're that close to that happening, we're this close. And those people were panicking, and I understand why. And then you have, this is really breathtaking. You have the idiots on CNN literally not blinking an eye when one of their panelists, although this is their senior, let me see, I have her title here because it's like, you're not going to believe this. Here, let's see here. Senior White House correspondent. And listen to what she said on fake news CNN to Dana Bash, and Dana Bash didn't blink a freaking eye. Listen to this.
Obviously, we around the table should talk about why this should be an important thing for Americans to pay attention to. Well, that's what I want to. Particularly given that Donald Trump is about to be president in a number of weeks, somebody who has said he wants to use the military to go after his own enemies.
Can you believe this idiot? That is their senior White House correspondent. And Dana Bash was, that's where I wanted to guess. We need to go here. Who do you think is more likely to do something like this? Who do you think is more likely to declare a martial law type of a thing, shut down our government, and take it over? Do you really think Trump would do this? Or do you think it's something like a Democrat would do? like when they sealed off the Capitol from people that were showing up and supposedly going to rally against the government, their government. Not January 6th stuff, but like, remember when they put up walls all around the White House? Or not walls, but fences and all this stuff. Don't you recall that it was Antifa and radical leftist Democrats that surrounded the White House? And was that in Trump's first or second year of office? Remember, they rushed him to underground bunker underneath the White House. And they were serious possibilities that the Democrat voters were going to go in there and take over the White House. And so I don't believe this is a Trump issue. I believe that if anybody would do this, it would be the Democrats. They're the ones trying to stifle our freedom of speech and do the lies about misinformation and disinformation. They're the ones who have gotten the FBI to come and arrest us, to spy on us in our schools and arrest us in our schools for showing up at our school board meetings, to spy on us at Catholic churches, and made up bogus charges to jail the opposition of Joe Biden. They're the ones that would do this and claim it's for democracy. They're the ones who use our government against us, not Trump. So I believe this could happen, not nearly as much as it could happen in other countries like South Korea, but I believe that if it did happen, it would be the Democrats that would do this. Who do you think would do it? What kind of parallels do you see from what's happening in South Korea to what's happening in the United States, or what has happened in the United States? Could this happen under a Trump presidency? Or do you think, no, the unbelievable loons on CNN, I can't believe they say this and it didn't get rebuked by, Dana Bash clearly despises Trump. That's okay. We put your, in a sling. You're out of we knocked your candidate out. You lost handily. Sit down and shut up, and now commence with your bogus theories nobody cares about and doesn't believe. So what kind of parallels do you see from what's happening in South Korea to what's happening or could happen in the United States? And could this happen under a Trump presidency, or do you think it's more likely to happen under a Democrat Biden type presidency? And do you think something like this could happen soon in the U.S.? 800-288-WBAP is our number. Line's wide open. Chime in right now, 800-288-WBAP. What kind of parallels do you see from what happened in South Korea today to what could happen here? And which party do you think is more likely to do it? A Biden Democrat person or a Trump Republican type? I don't see our types doing it. We have never, to my knowledge, and I'm talking about in the last 20 years where this stuff has seemingly gone wild, I've not heard of the Republicans weaponizing the FBI, the secret, not the Secret Service, but weaponizing the FBI and the intelligence outlets to try to sink a president's candidacy in 2020, to actually sink it by lying and saying 51 former intelligence agents say that this Hunter's laptop is Russian disinformation, and never get rebuked, never get their security clearances yanked. I've never seen any Republican ever lie through the FBI to a judge to get a FISA warrant on a Republican candidate, to a Democratic candidate. I have never seen a Republican or a Trump side ever get the FBI to investigate and prosecute, and the Department of Justice to handpoint some illegally appointed special prosecutor to make up bogus charges and try to take down the opposition to the Republican candidate. I've never seen us do that before. I've never seen somebody shut down the country and so wickedly and deviantly and fervently stick to lockdowns for so long, lie to us about creating a fake virus, not a fake virus, but a virus as a weapon, and then lie to us and tell us vaccination is what you do, and it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated, and ridicule people who don't want that. This is I've never seen anything like this from the Trump and Republican side. I mean, Trump's the one who did not jail or even prosecute his opponent, Hillary Clinton, when she did try to rig the election against him. He had a case. He didn't pursue it. So we know what Trump would do. And they lie still today on CNN and say this could happen now that Trump's the president. You sick fools. I'm going to say you sick SOBs, but my gosh. All right, 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Oh, by the way, I stand corrected. It was not a 3-hour martial law. It was 2 hours. And by the way, that guy's going to be stepping down real soon or being impeached. They're looking at both options. So we'll take your call on this coming up next at 17 after the hour on News Talk 820 WBAP. Our number, of course, 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Also coming up next, Daniel Penny, the subway trial and the death of Jordan Neely, a 42-time convict or 42-time arrestee, homeless, drug-addled, schizophrenic, guy who's been terrorizing people on the subway and on the streets of New York City for years, dies after threatening a bunch of passengers, including women and children, on a subway ride that he's going to kill them all. He doesn't care if he goes to jail for the rest of his life. Daniel Penny, a former Marine, stands up and defends the people on that train, and now the jury, his life is in the jury's hands. His freedom's in the jury's hands today in New York City. How will they rule? How do you want them to rule? That's coming up next as well. Adam in Dallas will be up in 2 minutes as well on which party, which president do you think would actually declare martial law like what happened in South Korea today? That is next. Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3, 800-288 WBAP is our number. News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288 WBAP is our number. What kind of parallels do you see from what's happening in South Korea with the president declaring martial law and the state police SWAT team going in and the parliament and the military trying to keep people from rushing Parliament? Thank goodness Parliament was able to meet against the wishes of the president, and they voted 190-0 to overrule this corrupt president's martial law. He's literally embroiled in a corruption scandal with him and his wife. Just like the freaking Hunter Biden bagman, Joe Biden pimping his son out and making millions and millions. And that pardon for more than 10 years, it's almost 11 years of any possible crime, even ones that haven't been found out yet, even ones that might arise. Now, supposedly what I heard today was that it might even be like anybody that has anything to do with them. This is just vile. So if anybody would do something like this, it wouldn't be Trump, like CNN said today. It's just shame on them. Unbelievable. What a joke they are. It's no surprise they say that, but it's just. So anyways, we know which side has been prosecuting and trying to jail their opponents and all this kind of stuff, and it would be the Democrats and Biden. What do you think? Which side do you think is more likely to do that, Trump or Biden and the Democrats? Adam, Dallas, you're on WBAP. Hello.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Democrats would be more likely to do something like that, like a martial law situation. I think Trump is more interested in putting America back together again, bringing all the jobs back from overseas, and trying to make America, a place worth living again. Because it's almost like we're being priced out of our houses, out of our communities, out of our grocery stores. All the prices keep getting jacked up, and I don't think chicken's got any better. Like the food supply hasn't. I mean, why is the price increasing on it? It's just crazy.
Bidenomics.
But,
that's why. Yeah.
And
I just saw today that we have the most credit card debt ever. It keeps skyrocketing. I think it's at $1.17 trillion in credit card debt in America.
Yeah, it says that nobody can make enough on their paycheck anymore. They have to, turn to credit cards and loans and stuff.
Well, I appreciate your call, Adam. Thank you very much, my friend.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good night.
You too. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. All right, I want to segue into this here. We have, I don't know if you saw this today, the Daniel Penny trial. Any moment today, and it didn't happen, but any moment today they could have declared either a mistrial, hung jury. They could have declared innocent, guilty. Daniel Penny, of course, a former Marine who was, I believe, an architecture student going to classes and such as a full-time student. He was on the subway as a schizophrenic, a seriously schizophrenic man who has 42 arrests on his record, including several for assault. Let's see here. He had lengthy criminal history, had a severe case of paranoid schizophrenia. He was high on K2, which is also called spice. It's marijuana with an effect similar to cocaine. And he had active arrest warrants for him as well. He stepped onto the train, threw his jacket to the ground, began making death threats, warning he wasn't afraid to die, go back to jail, or spend life in prison. There were women, there were children, little babies, I think, or a stroller with some kind of either a baby or a toddler in there. And Daniel Penny had enough when the guy threw his jacket off. Penny grabbed him from behind, did a headlock, wrestled him to the ground, held him, and then another passenger helped him to contain Jordan Neely as well. And the prosecution in this, and some people have tried to make this about race. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with protecting people on a train where you're locked into a subway. You cannot get out. The doors are locked. You're underground, and there's no way to get out. You can't leave the situation. You're stuck in it. And whatever this madman wants to do, he gets to do. So Penny stands up, puts him in a, people call it a chokehold, whatever you want to call it, from behind. And he made sure this guy didn't hurt anybody. And every one of us would want a Daniel Penny in our train. Some of us might be that Daniel Penny. This is the ultimate test about whether or not people can protect themselves in New York City or not. And this will be decided by this jury. We're going to get right into this case coming up next. And I want to talk to you about this. How do you think it must feel to be Daniel Penny? You're going to hear some really, really sad, terrible audio you're going to hear of how they were treating Daniel Penny today as he walked into the courthouse. It's really, really, I want you to put yourself in his shoes, how it would be to be him today going in and people chanting what they chanted at him today. Not just one or two, a whole bunch. And how you would vote if you were on that jury. And how do you think the jury will rule? All that's coming up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. 800-288 WBAP is our number. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-9227 is our number. 800-288 WBAP. All right, Daniel Penny murder trial today, or I should say manslaughter trial. He is the young man who is a former Marine on a subway when a 42-time arrestee and man who has a serious case of paranoid schizophrenia is high on K2, which is marijuana mixed with cocaine-like substance. And he's going manic. He's going crazy. He is threatening people. By the way, he is threatening people. He gets on the plane, throws off his jacket, and threatens people, and says that this is it. I'm going to kill somebody, something to the effect of this, and I don't care if I go to jail for the rest of my life. Somebody's going to die. And he rips his jacket off, is yelling and screaming. And so once it appeared a serious threat to everybody on the train, according to multiple witnesses and Daniel Penny himself in his testimony, he put this man who was having a massive paranoid schizophrenia episode while high, he puts him in what's called a chokehold from behind and restrains him for about 6 minutes, also with the help of another passenger on the plane, on the subway. And the cops get there about 7 or 8 minutes later. And when he lets the guy go at that point, or somewhere around that point, and when the cops get there, he talks to them, he cooperates. The several witnesses talk to the cops. Here are some of them. If you can make out what they're saying here, kind of, the first one's clear, the second one's a little bit iffy.
I looked at him, right, and then he started taking off his sweater, dummy car, and then he threw it, and then he told, everyone that he had, a rough day, and that he don't care what happens today, he don't care about going to jail, but that
All right, now you have and this is what's insane, you have a woke leftist DA, assistant district attorney, a woman, listen to this from Fox News, who let a black man, this is that woke justice, social justice stuff, a woke black man killed an elderly Asian man who was withdrawing money from an ATM, and she let him off on a tiny charge because she called it restorative justice. Here's Fox News talking about that.
Daphne Yoren, not too long ago, prosecuted a man who was robbing somebody at a phone booth. The robber pushed the man down. He was old. You can see there. Pushed the man. Oh, it was an ATM, sorry. Pushed the man down. He hit his head. He later died of brain contusion. But she said, look, we should pursue this idea of restorative justice. He didn't mean to kill him. So in that case, she wanted leniency for a criminal who accidentally killed someone.
Yeah, here's the headline from the news when it happened about 5 years ago. UWS professor's killer receives reduced sentence as part of restorative justice program. So she takes people who kill innocent victims and lets them off based on their race, and then puts people like Daniel Penny wants to put him in jail for 15 years for protecting people. A city councilwoman, and so to finish off what happened, so he puts him in a chokehold for 6 minutes, releases him. When the cops get there, they're doing CPR on the guy. They gave him, he did have a pulse when the cops checked him. They said that. Second of all, they did give him Narcan because they could tell he was on some kind of drugs and high on something. And they gave him Narcan, and they said they would have given him CPR, but they didn't because they didn't have a dental dam, and they're afraid of getting HIV from giving breathing treatments to a homeless guy who's high on drugs and is schizophrenic and manic. One of the city council members for New York City said this today on Twitter, which is on my Twitter feed. I retweeted it. You should follow me on Twitter at Chris Kroc Show. That's at Chris Kroc Show, CHRISKROK. That's Chris Kroc Show, CHRISKROK. That's the same handle on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. She wrote, I attended closing arguments to support Daniel Penny. I witnessed what was a travesty, the likes of which I didn't think possible in the United States. I saw a despicable excuse for a DA stand up in front of a court and flagrantly lie for no other reason but to try to destroy the life of a good man for the crime, quote unquote, of protecting a train full of people from a violent, deranged bum. The fact that an angry, disheveled, spiteful woman like this can vindictively wield the law on behalf of our city is an embarrassment to our entire legal system. It shows how nakedly unapologetic political the Manhattan DA's office has become. Shame on us for allowing a once great city to descend to this level. I call it a clown show, except it would imply there's an element of humor to this, and there isn't. I only pray the jury can see through this charade and find Daniel Penny innocent. Either way, the damage has been done, and message is clear that Manhattan DA will not think twice about destroying the life of anyone who stands up to criminals in self-defense. We are to be ruled by the lawless. So, I want to ask you a few questions on this. Let me play this too. This grabbed me today too, really did. This is when Daniel Penny was walking in. And by the way, the jury went home for the day around 5 o'clock New York time. They are going to be back in session tomorrow at 9:45 New York time, 8:45 our time. And so you could have a verdict tomorrow morning, tomorrow midday, tomorrow afternoon. And I pray that he is not guilty, found not guilty on all charges. But I want to play this for you. As he was entering the courthouse today with his lawyers and the media and everything, here's what they said. It was not a couple of people, it was a bunch. Can you imagine hearing that when you get out of a car and you're trying to look good and look strong and ready and confident, and these people are screaming that at you? Think of how difficult it would be to hear that when you come in before you go into that courtroom. Think of how much the chips are stacked against you. and how much this is the type of case, and if your last name is Trump, the type of case that the New York officials want to go after and prosecute you for doing the right thing, for standing up for people, for protecting people. How do you think it must feel to be Daniel Penny and to be walking into that courthouse today? Because, even if you know you're innocent, and by the way, people have donated $3.2 million to him in his GoFundMe account, and it's still growing, and you can still donate it, which I encourage you to do. But can you imagine, no matter how much money you have in your account, no matter how much you think you're innocent, how much you know you're innocent, hearing that on your way into trial, on the day you might get your verdict? No matter what happens out of this, hearing that is really, really destructive to this young man. And I feel terrible for him. How do you think it must feel to be Daniel Penny and be walking into that courthouse and hear that today? Guilty, 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 guilty. And how would you vote if you were on the jury? And then how do you think they're going to end up ruling? Because with a New York jury, you never know. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Lines wide open, chime in right now. We can pop you on 800-288-WBAP. The hope is that, 12 of these people, at least one of them's got to say, I ride the subway every day. It's terrible. We're not safe. There's very few police. The police are allowed to do very little nowadays to protect us. We need to be able to do this. Can you imagine if they wipe this out? The clear message will be this: when, not if, but when you are the victim of a crime, do not fight back or you will be the criminal. Isn't that terrible to think about? Isn't that horrifying to think about? Think of the lawlessness that comes out of this if you can't even defend yourself. It's wild to think about. 800. Oh, by the way, our number again, 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. By the way, there's a couple other things I haven't shared with you yet. The medical examiner, the New York City medical examiner, ruled the cause of death before the toxicology reports came back in. Just like the St. George Floyd, blessed be his name, or St. George Fentanyl, whichever you prefer, blessed be his name. Just like his death, where they buried the lead that he had so much fentanyl in his system that it was more than what kills the average junkie in a Florida study. He had more than the average junkie, more than it takes to kill the average junkie in an OD in his system when he died. Same kind of thing here. The autopsy wasn't even, they didn't do the toxicology reports. They released cause of death. Oh, strangled to death. Really? Let's talk to Noah in Terrell. You're on News Talk 820 WBAP. What's up?
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on. I do believe that he should be found not guilty, and anybody that's chanting guilty at him should probably get a psych eval. Yes, and I heard some people say they were there, I guess, or I don't know if they were with the family or what. They're like, we need justice for Jordan Neely. And the pictures they show of him are from 15 years ago, dressed up as Michael Jackson, because he was a Michael Jackson impersonator on the streets, going into some kind of a Michael Jackson movie or something like that. That's 15 years ago. It's like St. George Floyd. Blessed be his name. When they showed pictures of him, being a saintly man, not mentioning he was in pornography, it was a massive felon. He'd been convicted of holding a pregnant woman with a gun to her belly, robbing her, stuff like that. Oh, no, we don't talk about that. So, nobody talks about the 42 charges this guy had, including 3 assaults. But anyways, here's the last question I want to ask you. How do you think they will rule, this New York jury will rule? I don't trust them, do you? If it's of sound-minded people and people that actually care about the security and the sanctity of people around them at 24/7, since I'm assuming that this is people that are always taking the train.
Yeah, they are. Most everybody does.
I would most definitely think that everybody would be like-minded and want safer security on the trains. And anybody that doesn't see that, I can't
I can't see eye to eye with.
I know, but how do you and I rectify the fact that this the same jury pool that said Trump is guilty of those bogus charges and convicted him?
I do believe if the jury is already of set mind, then it may go against him. But if truth and just sound mind prevails, then he should be found not guilty. And anybody that's found him guilty, either it be a judge or people outside of the courtroom, need to get checked.
Last question. If he's found guilty, would this have a bearing on you if you defended yourself or others in New York City? Would you basically just run away if something was going on instead of protecting somebody?
No, and it definitely falls along the lines of the fight or flight, and I definitely got fight in me, so it wouldn't see me fleeing anytime soon.
Appreciate your call, my brother. Be safe. All right, we got 3 lines open. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. We'll talk to Dan in Corpus Christi coming up next. I've got much more on this as well. I will be telling you more about the history of Jordan Neely and his convictions and all of his crimes. And I still haven't shared with you what the defense's medical examiner, who's from Texas, their forensics expert, their medical examiner expert, who testified and really did blow a hole in the prosecution's case. All that's coming up next on the Chris Crock Show. 3 lines open, 800-288-WBAP is the number, 800-288-9227. I saw this song performed in concert, thank you very much, when he opened up for the Stones way back when. The inimitable Lenny Kravitz. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. All right, let's, by the way, a little bit more, talking about what do you think it must feel like to be Daniel Penny and walk into that courthouse with all those people chanting guilty, guilty, guilty. How do you think that jury's going to end up ruling? Because you would like to have them say not guilty because they ride the subway and they know this stuff goes on all the time. But remember how insane this jury pool is. I mean, I have the feeling that they're going to say this is my life and my personal being. And if I can't defend myself, then I can't even go on that subway anymore. And I think you'll have a handful of super leftist people that are going to not budge and say, because of the race of somebody or whatever, they're going to try to pull some social justice garbage. But I think you're going to have a jury that says not guilty. And I think if you get enough, 7 or 8 or 6 or 7 or 5 or 6, you're not going to outlast the rest. So how would you vote if you were on that jury, and how do you think they will rule? And how do you think it feels to walk in like that in the courthouse and have them all shouting guilty, guilty, guilty at you as if you really are? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Let's go to Jason in Dallas. Jason, WBAP. Oh, wait, not Jason, you're next. Hold on. It's Dan in Corpus first, then Jason. Hey, Dan, you're on WBAP. Welcome.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There is no way that I would... And I'm a total news junkie. I've followed this case very closely. There is no way I would vote anything other than an acquittal.
Mm-hmm. Why?
But why?
Yeah.
Because according to the defense medical examiner, there is no evidence of a chokehold.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that Texas forensics pathologist doctor countered that the cause of death was a combination of Neely's drug use, K2, a genetic condition, he has sickle cell anemia, known as sickle cell trait, and the physical exertion from the struggle with Penny and his severe mental illness, because he was schizophrenic. Right. He's,
Yeah, so, I mean, there's no way I could vote for anything other than acquittal. However, I do, as a former law enforcement officer, my advice to him, if I could give it to him 2 years ago, is never, ever, ever talk to a cop without a lawyer.
Yeah, he talked to them after he went. They asked him to come in and talk, so he did. Little did he know that the DA was on the other side of the glass telling the cops what to ask. Sick, very sick. 11 days later, they asked him to come in. Dan, great call. Thank you for your service as a law enforcement officer. I look forward to more of your calls. All right.
I'll look forward to seeing you at Texas Motor Speedway again.
There you go, my brother. Thank you. Jason in Dallas, you're on WBAP.
Hey, just to address the current topic, I really hope he is found not guilty and is acquitted on all charges. I just wanted to make a more broad, general point about the election with the Democratic Party. I think the reason why they imploded is because the fundamentals that they say they believe, they don't actually really care about. Like, they don't really care about illegals. They don't really care about trans people. They're just anti-Republican. So when you get down to it, it's like the foundation crumbles because there's nothing really there, except hating Republicans and family values and stuff. So I think, that can't go on forever, and them as a party lost their base, and they're just hollow at this point.
Jason, I appreciate your call, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, we got Stephen Weatherford coming up next. We'll talk to him. I'm going to give you more details, though, on what the defense said and what that forensic pathologist said from Texas, which really should absolutely cause doubt, a reasonable doubt, if not more than that. We'll get into that coming up next. And then Zelensky. Hey, it's me again. Yes. Hello. You come, you hold my leg. You give me more money. Hey. It's Zelensky. Yeah, come on now, kiss the ring. He says he will agree to a ceasefire or whatever, or end of the war if this happens. All that's next at 3 minutes after the hour on News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Zelensky.